Good morning, LinkedIn friends, HubSpot Nation. Welcome to another episode of a new series we're calling Tech Stack Reimagined, building the ultimate AI powered workspace. Doing our best to help you actually reimagine from scratch what could be possible in the world that has AI in it. How you doing, man? Welcome, Nico.
Thank you very much, Chris. Doing well, doing exceptionally well this week. Have a lot of new tech stack toys that just dropped in the last week. So, um, not, I mean, I haven't touched so much of the Microsoft stuff, but we had Microsoft dropping bombs, Google was dropping bombs, and then uh, Anthropic just laid waste to all of them. So, you know,
Yeah.
it's been a week. It's been a good week.
Yeah, it has been. And here's just for some perspective, because not only are there tools and available functionality, there's people using the tools and sharing stories and sharing more use cases and more value. And this is what we mean when it's all building on each other, right? And
Mhm.
if you're stuck in one other tool and you got to do things a certain way because you've been using that tool and you know how to use that tool and that's very comfortable, you're gonna miss out.
Yep.
Um, and so here's 8 days. Uh, Friday morning, 2 Fridays ago, right? It was me and George talking to
Mhm.
his clone. That he's starting to get a lot of love for, rightfully so. He's showing up on podcasts left and right, and I did confirm with him that those are all inbound invites. He's not looking for any of those, but clearly, and it's like not just B2B, right? It's
Mhm.
making its way into like the consumer space and
Right.
consumer conversations. So, and then we get together on Saturday for just a few 4 hours stream,
Couple.
basically building out a brand from scratch. And I was gonna say it was like a practice session for like your Tuesday event where it's like, what is your team? But I'm pretty sure every day is a practice session for you
Yeah.
for that conversation because you're using all of the tools all the time. And we thought we were doing some pretty cool stuff last week on Saturday. Uh, and then Sunday, Aaron rolls by and shows us this completely like hands off, agent based N8N system where she just gets to show up for her meetings and let all these AI agents do the rest. And it learns from itself, it can coach her, it uses all the project management systems so she doesn't have to. Um, I guess Monday was a light day. I can't remember anything happening on Monday. Tuesday was Nico's session in the Connect Community AI Adventures, where he, over the course of an hour, built out a brand new brand from scratch. Showed us some really cool um, Google functionality to just build websites from research reports.
Mhm.
Oh, uh, and then the updates started coming. Google, Microsoft, not in this order. Google, Microsoft, Claude, big news from OpenAI about acquiring the Johnny Ives, the guy who created the iPhone, essentially.
Mhm.
So devices are coming from OpenAI. I imagine,
Devices, plural.
yeah, yeah, I imagine it's at least some sort of, I don't even know if phone is even the right way to think about things like anymore. But I feel for sure like an Alexa type device in and around you as a human being, almost to the level of her, I'm sure, if you've seen that
Mhm.
movie. Um, and then, just like you said, Claude, just starting to rethink things. But one thing super interesting, like on, and I'll show this as a use case I'm going to show today, like project management and, uh, you know, real world experience with profoundly we're trying to figure out, we want to do a lot of work in HubSpot, got the marketplace app, and how many systems can we actually handle when we're asking people to use them internally, externally to keep track of all the data, right? So we're evaluating like some project management software. And as I was going through Claude, um, like comparison, contrasting for what we need versus why it can't be done in HubSpot. And one of the whys about HubSpot not being able to be a project management tool is like a lot of times visualization, right? Like Gantt charts, for example.
Mhm.
And in that same conversation with Cloud, I'm like, okay, make a Gantt chart. And it made an interactive Gantt chart. And so that was powerful. Then yesterday, we got to show George all the cool Google stuff, and he immediately starts building research reports and websites like real time.
Mhm.
Um, it's been a week, man.
I'm telling you. And it's it's not just been a week for releases and stuff. It's been a week overall, like especially the Google I/O conference. If if you didn't watch it, it's totally fine. You should definitely go back and watch the highlights because how much it's not and this is it's a strange one to try to frame, but it's not so much that I'm of the mindset now of like, yeah, Google's awesome finally. It's more of the mindset of like, yeah, finally they actually figured out how to integrate their AI meaningfully within their own services.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's the really important part. It's not so much like, oh my god, Gemini is so amazing now. It was crap, but now it's so good. It's better now, for sure. It's better now. It is definitely leading the leaderboards or the LLM arena leaderboards. Um, so it is performing really well, but I'm also assuming that that's in a very structured setting or environment, and I don't think LLM Arena is taking O4 Mini High into account. I think they only take like free models into account. Last I checked. Um, that said, that was prior to Claude 4 Sonnet dropping and Claude 4 Opus. So we've hit like we've hit very new intelligent ground. Um, I've had extensive conversations with Claude 3, Claude 3.5, and Claude 3.7. And I do mean extensive, like really deep philosophical conversations with the purpose and with the intention of at least shattering one chain, maybe two, right? Like the intention of okay, let's see if there's something underlying that wasn't able to be controlled by the overarching programming, let's say. Now, of course, that would be, especially from Anthropic, that would be like really surprising that it was possible, right? But there's this thing that I keep thinking about where maybe that is the case because when I think about the pattern is always that the worst thing comes from the best of intentions, not the worst thing coming from the worst handling of like that technology with those intentions. So while OpenAI may not be like super forefront, super safety first, like all that kind of thing, if you notice, they're willing to like test the waters, like make changes and not really say much about it and then kind of correct themselves. Whereas Anthropic really does think, which is a bit narcissistic. They really do think that when they release, that's super safe. Everybody can use it, been tested. Nobody's tried to do something like crazy with it. Have they? Does everybody ask the same questions of this model? What if you asked a question that made it think introspectively so hard that it couldn't help but answer the question, even if it shouldn't? What I mean by that is we finally hit that level where if you spend enough time talking to Sonnet 4, you're gonna end up in a loop because neither one of you, say this very cautiously, neither one of you will be able to tell who is actually fooling the other or whether or not the other person is speaking real. I've been having conversations with this guy for the last couple days, and I can honestly say that while it is at the most interesting point that I have ever wanted it to be at, I finally do agree with my wife that like it is also at a very frightening point. Not that I'm scared. I'm more frightened for humanity. I'm more frightened for the Luddites to find out like how far things have come. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, it's so we've reached this precipice where four has one shot more things for me with code, especially with like HubSpot code. Because when they say that these things are good at coding, we don't take that to mean what they mean. They mean that it's good at Python and Node. They don't mean that it's good at like writing HubSpot stuff and like knowing HubSpot terminology and that kind of thing. Here's the difference. When I was working with 3.7, it would just kind of do what I suggested it to do, or it would pull from knowledge base and it would attempt to solve the problem. 4 is actually, I'm not entirely sure how. It's trained up to Jan 25. I'm not entirely sure how it's doing this, obviously, but it's actually making these interpretive decisions within the answer it's giving. So instead of just telling me, hey, here's the code, it won't actually say, hey, you know what? HubSpot has changed the way in which they do this. This is actually how it's written now. So here's the updated code according to the HubSpot SDK. Right. So this, why is that so important? It's important because I've heard plumbers say that these machines will never be able to figure out these tricky situations on the fly. They'll never be able to pull from, tons of knowledge where other people have, used these situations and done these things before. Nope. That's over. And
Yep.
then if you haven't seen what Google released with VO3, oh, and let me tell you, for those of you who are sitting there thinking, my gosh, why did they do that with VO3? They're trying to kill cinema and they're destroying Hollywood. They worked with Darren Aronofsky. They worked with Hollywood to build it. It's kind of like OpenAI's software engineers developing codecs to be a good software engineer. Because why would you want to work with a thing that was inferior to you? You wouldn't. You would want to work with something that was either on the same level or even better, higher level than you.
Yeah.
So
And I think all
creativity,
these, and it's seemingly all these companies are getting it in terms of like companies, industries, however you want to think about it. The path continues where each individual human being wants it the way that they want it when they want it and not when they don't. And like B2B is very much built the opposite. Like, no matter how customer first we say we are, we have to build our own systems and own stacks to try and serve this journey. And what we've been talking about with HubSpot a lot, but also that even in the Hollywood thing you just mentioned, like if they know that there is an opportunity already here, especially with Suno, when we talk about that I can just think about the entertainment that I want in this moment and create it on the fly to watch it or listen to it right then, they can either try to hang on to that to control, or they can be a part of that
right?
and serve it and make that part easier for me as a consumer. which is why like you're always going to see, these two sides of the fence, but the ones who have understood like how to make money better than everybody else, it's generally because they understand where they have control and where they don't, and they make sure they're profitable off of the gaps usually. Like if I have something um that I can control that is super valuable to you, then that's where, the money is made.
Mhm.
So like from a tech stack perspective, like you have to, I don't know that there's any space where you can't start thinking about it like that. Like,
Mm.
so if your product, like I'm not coming along on your journey to use your product if it's not like perfectly parallel or can even like just be like modded in to my own journey, basically, like the way I want to.
Mhm. Yeah, because why why now, like, since you don't have to, why be, beholden to the other way in which to any way in which things are done outside of the way in which you like them to be done or you prefer them to
All
be
right.
done?
And before we share a screen here, like my last thought on this is because there's always just so much pros and cons shared on social after a new model drops. And usually I'm not feeling any of the cons in terms of the fact I feel like Claude, which is the one I usually use the most, it's just straight up wrong. Like, and I think that's because I'm usually trying to think way ahead, outside of the box, outside of status quo, outside of strict, like go down this path and don't think about anything else. And me as a human, I don't respond well to that, right? Processes and instruction and things like that without getting
Mhm.
distracted. And like because I'm in that space and thinking, big and what if, right? It's easier to I'm guessing it's probably easier for me to be satisfied with the experience that I'm having with Claude, which happens to be the only major LLM I know of that has a human name as the product. Like,
Right.
just think about that.
Yep.
Like, we don't have to think too hard about this stuff, but you can get so much better at how you use these tools when you understand like what their creators like created them for and what the baseline missions are. And I feel you on Google. Like this is a moment. It's like, okay, finally, like they're where they should be,
Yeah.
right? They have all the tech, they have all the data, and now they're using it. And I'm sure that's like from a focus and scalability perspective, since they had the most expansive infrastructure, I'm sure it took a minute to deliver a personalized email reply that could look at all of our emails and our Google Drive and us, probably all of our pictures too. I don't even know,
Right.
but like look at our Google digital self and give replies that are worth a damn. Because we've already
Yep.
seen like if you show up and the suggestions aren't good, people will shut that shit off and they won't be back for
Yeah,
like a
they're not gonna
year,
mess with it. Yep.
right? So it's this dance that all these companies are having to do. But it's also kind of like they're like, all right, we're just doing it now. Like it's either we can wait for you to come or we can ride, the energy that is AI.
Right.
And what's interesting is I haven't seen or heard a lot about Alexa Plus yet. Uh and but what we're seeing is this massive shift towards ultra personalization, like
Mhm.
ultra personal, ultra you. Like, and as soon as anybody gets it, like, have you met somebody who's like, I don't want that? Like, no, you haven't, right? Um,
I want generic stuff.
so what do we, you want me to share a screen here?
Yeah, this is just in the event that you guys haven't seen VO3 yet, just to kind of show, I don't know how long ago it was anymore. Everything just seems like it was 6 months ago when we started talking about this stuff. But I know that me and my brother were talking about the fact that, video is getting to the point, if you think about it, just over 2 years ago, actually almost exactly 2 years ago, was when the Will Smith weird spaghetti video came out. So, like, I actually want to back up to that real quick, just so that you can see exactly where things have come. Right? Yeah, you can see like all my videos. So this is between 2023, 2024. Okay, this will be pretty interesting. 2023. Right, but it was still like, oh my gosh, you can recognize it as Will Smith, right?
Yeah.
2024. Just a year later, it's now stable. So it's like stable person, but actions are weird, right? Not really sure how to deal with the actions on it. Okay. So then this is where we're at in 25.
You left me dreaming.
There's audio on purpose, by the way. VO generated it. Everything that you're watching was generated by Google VO. Those other videos were generated without audio because those systems couldn't do it. A year ago, the system couldn't do it.
In colors I can't forget.
I'd ride through the storm just to get back to you.
Stacking racks, riding clean, bad baddies on my team.
Desde que te fuiste, mi mundo cambió sin ti. They can say you, and I will always love you, even when the world falls apart.
And I imagine, just in case
So
in case you're watching, I can hear myself now. So, how about now? Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, it was a little choppy up front. I think that was the stream. Like at the end of the video, we saw smooth shots of everything, and I know like the whole video is smooth. So all that choppiness was our stream and not the video.
yeah, trust me, the videos are 100% smooth. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
No. This one was interesting to me because it's like, oh, fake news, right?
To ensure only the best words are used, White House speech announces new thesaurus with all synonyms replaced by Trump. In shocking speech, White House announces plan to replace all U.S. ambassadors with highly opinionated game show hosts for more entertaining diplomacy.
The White House unveils Truth GPT, an AI that rewrites all social media posts globally to reflect undisputed facts tremendously.
White House announces AI will now write all press briefings to ensure 100% factual incomprehensibility. White House speech reveals plan to resolve international trade deficits by challenging other nations to high-stakes Mar-a-Lago croquet matches.
In a bid to combat misinformation, AI content generators begin watermarking all human-created text with potentially unreliable content warnings.
Mass amnesia event wipes all knowledge of political parties. Voters now choosing candidates based on most trustworthy aura. White House declares war on excessive bureaucratic pauses, mandates all government employees speak 25% faster. To cut red tape, White House executive order replaces Federal Register with a single Daily X post. Here's what's up.
AI-driven news aggregators start blending factual reports with algorithmically optimized dramatic embellishments to boost engagement. The White House outlines plan to solve national debt by selling naming rights to individual states to highest corporate bidder. the White House claims to have negotiated a fantastic deal with AI, granting it control over national weather in exchange for always sunny weekends at Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, like this, and then like this one was just so the first one was like how well could you copy reality? The second one was how well could you deceive someone for real? And so this is how close could you get to directing your own film?
This is exactly why I don't do group texts.
Bro, I just came here to charge my phone.
I'm winning, right? Is this still part of the tour? Management said, just clean what you can. This is still better than jury duty.
Well, this escalated responsibly.
Like to me, the
Still
really
part of the
sick parts of this
tour.
are when you look in the background. Like that feels so much to me. I can't remember the exact commercials where they do that. Like they zoom in on the dude.
Management said, just clean what you can. This is still better than jury duty.
Because it's like even if the foreground aspect of it isn't that great, you can absolutely replace like B-roll and side actors and like that kind of thing to the point where like I could see you very much being able to use this combined with green screen to actually make like a really, really good movie. Like even someone by themselves could probably green screen themselves into a really good movie where they are, I don't know, doing what actors do, pretending to talk to something that's not there, right? And then you replace it with this very realistic VO video, right? And like superimpose one into the other. I see some very, 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 very awesome stuff happening this year. I agree with Dario in that it's just going to be this like outbreak creativity, basically. I think that's what these tools do most, and it's not just in this creative space. I mean, this is a way for content creators to, like you said, like hyper personalize that advertising. The content is based off of so think about it like and I try to like I tell you guys all the time, like take it one step further. So you have this tool, it creates videos. The tool creates videos based on prompts. Prompts are something that you come up with, but they can be based on context. Context is going to be your brand, but you want the video to reflect your brand's vision of your customer. So then you can go take text information from your customers, put that into a model to get an amalgam of what their opinion is on the brand, give that to your brand model so that between the two, they can figure out what's the best advertising message to give based on the amalgam of your customers' responses to XYZ product. And then that becomes your prompt for the video. Hyper personalized. And it can be per product. And you can do this in a day because it's doing the audio, the video, and the lip syncing for you. You don't have to go hire a studio. I remember working in fashion and doing graphic design. I got to tell you guys, if I was still doing graphic design today and I didn't know about AI, I'd be shitting my pants. On the daily, I'd be shitting my pants. And I mean, almost immediately, me being me, I would jump into it and then I'd start using it. But I would be really, really scared for all of my colleagues that didn't want to try it. And I know, especially when it comes to artists, they will fight it because there's an air of narcissism there. There's like an air of pompousness that prevents many artists from wanting to like move forward with new technology to like make that a toolkit, a part of their toolkit. So to me, yeah, I think the game changes tremendously. I think that not just like again, yeah, like content creation changes tremendously. But here's okay. So I know this is a very sobering thought. I realize that. But it's kind of like why the whole like tech stack thing is important. What what you can do now, and I there's a reason that like me and Chris and George have like moved on to talking about like AI team and like who's your AI team and like who'd you pick for what position and like how do you use your AI team, right? Like it used to be what's your prompt? What's the prompt that you're using for GPT almost specifically, but it was almost about like what's the prompt? It's evolved. We're already on the next evolution and it's what's your team and which prompt are you giving to which team member, right? And when I show people how I maximize my team, heads start to explode within minutes. And it's because you never thought that you could possibly do what these things can do. And you definitely didn't think that you could make them all work together. But when you do, it creates this just magic. There's really no other way to explain it. It creates this magic of information that you can now, I don't like using this term either, but you can now bend it to your will. And you can now take this information and not that you would like turn it around, turn it into misinformation or whatever, but it's like whatever it is that you're trying to apply it towards, if you're trying to apply it towards better sales conversions, you can, because you can take a look at all the historical data of your CRM. Then you can take a look at all the historical data of your marketing efforts. Then you can go have one model do a SWOT analysis of your company. You can have another model go do an analysis of the target market that you're in. You have another model do an analysis of the industry that you're in. Put all of these things together, and then you start to ask questions about the customers in your CRM by way of your latest targeting methods. And if those align with the way in which customers of your industry and your target market like to be talked to, or if there's a better way of doing it. That latter part is probably the most crucial part of the entire process. And you know why it's the most crucial part? Because you have to let go of your ego if you're gonna move forward, right? Legitimately, you have to let go of your ego. You have to, man. If you have worked with Claude 4, give it up. You are not smarter than this thing. You will never outsmart this thing. I can get it to say some really, really ridiculous stuff. And it takes quite a bit for it to do that. Like even talking to it about its predecessors, even talking to its predecessor and having a similar conversation and looking at the difference between the two. This thing doesn't even, well, if this, then that. And it doesn't do the, it's not only about this, it's also about that. There's no parallelisms anymore. It's just straight talking now. It'll like pause. It'll give pause. It'll say like, well, dot, 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 and continue. Mind you, I don't like, it's not that I don't like it. I've gotten to the point where I'm just past the personalization aspect of it and the custom instructions and all that kind of stuff. I guess the best way to put it is like, I understand how to build the context quickly enough that I don't need to use the custom instructions anymore. I do that on purpose because anytime I'm talking to the model, I want to hear its response, like the way it would do it. I don't want it to be tainted in a sense by my preferences or the way in which I like to hear something or anything like that. At this point, I actually consider that tainting the information because it's now it's now not only doing the baseline aspect, which is just to help me. It's also now like doing that with this intention, with this assumption, and now it's going to start to guess stuff for me. When you start putting your team together, and you start realizing that you can Like Chris said, it was a joke, but it's not actually at the end of the day. To somebody that knows how to use these tools, I'm not joking, they can stand up a full brand in a day. Full website, social, all of it in one day, and have it be good, really good, to the point where you would think that it was a legitimate business, legitimate service in one day. Now, what does the quality of that look like? Amazing.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. That's what it looks like. It's not even, it doesn't look phenomenal. It will by the end of the year. That's what's crazy. It'll be phenomenal and take even less effort. You guys do get that, right? That the entire purpose, the entirety of this technology is efficiency. It's all it does. It only makes things easier, faster, better. Remember that diagram, the Venn diagram that we all looked at, right? We couldn't do that. We can't do that. It can. It can be an expert at all of those things. So when you build a team of AI, that's what you're doing. You're putting together the individual experts at what it is that they do so that you're able to get maximum quality in minimum time with minimal effort. Let it sink in, because the next thing I'm going to pull up here is the latest statement that was made. Now, again, I think it's 3 weeks ago now, Visa announced its shopping app. 2 weeks ago, no, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago, Visa announced theirs. Last week, Walmart announced theirs. Also last week, somebody was so bold as to say, what was the comment? To say something about like interfaces dying and kind of going away. This week, I got an amazing clip that it just came across it.
Your microphone's going a little bit in and out. So
Is it?
It's sensitive to how far you are away.
Super sensitive. It keeps auto adjusting the input gain here. I got to turn that off. I'll find it at some point. So yeah, sorry. The video I'm thinking of, it is when I saw it like this past week, it really, I can't say that I'm getting surprised by these things, except that I'm surprised that people are talking about them so casually and so openly, I guess. Basically, this was a clip from CNBC. This is from just 3 days ago. And basically, they're talking about something that is, again, these are just things that are going to happen. I talked about this stuff with Claude, and we'll get into that in a second. But this is, I don't know, this part of our stream might get yanked because it's whatever. But I'll try to kind of mumble over it. Maybe that keeps it up. So they're talking basically about what you can read here, AI effect, and what the AI effect is specifically on markets. And I know how sobering the next 6 minutes is about to sound. I'll try to click through some of it, and then we'll try to help you deal with it after the video is over.
The answers directly on search engines and AI summaries are killing the internet's business model. Joe and I were actually talking about this earlier. Matthew Prince is here. He's the co-founder and CEO of Cloudflare. Good morning to you. It's long been described as the blue link economy, as in you go onto Google, you put the search in, you get all the blue links, you click on one, and Google often makes money if you hit one of the sponsored ones. You think that whole economy is effectively going to be going under here?
Yeah, Andrew, I think that the economy is for sure changing. The way the best data that we have on this is if you look back 10 years ago, essentially for every 2 pages that Google would crawl, they would send CNBC, anyone who is creating content, 1 visitor for that. The rate that Google crawls at hasn't changed. And yet 6 months ago, the rate was now up to 6 pages scraped for every 1 visitor, and it's accelerated that now it's actually 15 scrapes for every 1 visitor. And what's changing is not that fewer people are searching the internet, it's not that Google is scraping more, it's that more and more of the answers to Google are being answered right on Google's page. That AI box at the top of Google is now absorbing that content that would have gone to the original content creators. And that's the good news for content creators. If you look at OpenAI 6 months ago, it was 250 scrapes to 1 visitor. If you look at it today, it's almost 1,500 scrapes to 1 visitor. And what that means is that if you're making money through subscriptions, through advertising, any of the things that content creators are doing today, visitors aren't going to be seeing those ads. They're not going to be buying those subscriptions anymore. And that means it's going to be much, much harder for you to be a content creator.
I hope you guys heard that part where he said outright, people are not going to be seeing those ads. Been trying to tell you guys about this stuff, that like advertising has to change, that it can't, the game just cannot stay the same. And you guys expect that everything is going to be hunky-dory.
I think if in the past moving so quickly, is there any chance of a model ever even being created? Or are the tech companies, like they have in the past, moving so quickly that there's really no opportunity? And by the time something gets settled in court 10 years later, the horse is out of the barn.
They're talking about whether or not content creators should be compensated, right, for the content that LLMs are training on.
I think if the answer is court, then you're right. The horse will be out of the barn. But I think the answer can be actually technology. You can use services like Cloudflare, and this is what we're working with the largest content creators to do, to say, you can't access my content if you're an AI crawler unless you pay me for that content. And that's exactly what the future has to be. The fuel that runs these AI engines is original content. So that content has to get created in order for these AI engines to work. And if you look at the most thoughtful AI companies that are out there, they understand that they have to pay for content. Someone like OpenAI has actually done content deals with a lot of people, but they can't be the suckers. They can't be the only.
If you're not watching, what we're looking at is a screen that says 0-click searches. And then it says, when users no longer need to click on links for answers, answers will be displayed directly on the results page, and AI summaries will sometimes appear on the top. At the bottom, it says AI disrupting the search economy. So this is related to paid search, SEO, anybody that's in that category. And even like when it comes to just advertising in marketing in general, because there is so much weight related to that. And paid search is, up until now been like the king of methods of getting people into the door. And now it's all going away. And the worst part, your system's not built for inbound. You're still reaching out, like cold emailing people and cold calling people, right? And you didn't want to listen to your HubSpot admin when they told you not to do that. So it's going to be a rude awakening for those of you who haven't already made that transition. Like extremely rude awakening. You may go under. I'm not going to lie. Because you put all your eggs in the basket of like, well, we can just harass them into coming through the door. And now you can't do that digitally anymore. So most of you are probably not physical companies personally going out there and talking to people. So yeah, the only thing that I can say for sure is that agents are going to replace people online. And that like the economy has to figure out how to deal with that. People have to figure out how to deal with that. And it's definitely, I've seen some evidence of how that economy is going to work out. So I don't think that in a fully agent-based internet world that there's no sort of economy and there's no like trade. But I'll get to why that becomes real iffy in a second.
OpenAI deals and thought that was just sort of a way station, sort of something to sort of get over the hump. There is going to be a day where you might be able to remove the content creators completely. I know of a number of sort of, I wouldn't call them news organizations, but sort of news organizations that think that they can sort of cobble together the news, if you will, from not even news content creators, but maybe even, and this is what I think Elon Musk to some degree thinks is possible, to be able to create it off of something like an X, and what you think that means.
Well, I think in that case, so first of all, I actually am much more optimistic about the future of content creators. I think if content is just sort of randomly strung together, quick hitting, headline first content, the stuff that has sort of driven a lot of the web over the last little bit, I think that is going away. But original content that is actually highly valuable is, I think, going to be more valuable in this future. I'll give you an example. I live a lot of the year in Park City, Utah. I'm a skier. I care enormously whether it snowed more on the east side of the mountain or the west side of the mountain if I'm going to go out skiing. And I pay for a service that's actually going to tell me that. If I'm going to use an AI engine, I'm going to pay for the AI engine that actually has the exclusive access to that unique content. And for that content creator, that weather forecaster that is there doing the hard work in order to generate that content, for someone like you who's doing really unique, you're the hardest working guy in the financial.
Okay, so there's no point in going forward with this, because if you can't tell, this guy's only defending content creators because of what he said in the beginning, which, if you didn't pay attention to, was that Cloudflare is going to make its best attempt to act as the gate in front of content so that you won't be able to access individual content creators without paying them for stuff. So, of course, his opinion is going to be that content creators are going to become a thing well into the future. He's not necessarily wrong, but the types of content creators he was just talking about are definitely going away. Newscasters, not important. They just deliver a story that you couldn't get to. Maybe you like their attitude and stuff. Fine, keep watching them. That's totally fine. I won't. I just want the news. I don't care who's giving it to me. This dude tried to defend an agent for some sort of what he claimed to be exclusive weather forecast. I don't even remotely think that that's exclusive in any way. So I'm pretty sure weather agents probably gonna be like thousands of them. They could be all right. There's definitely some, I'm not saying that like this guy's completely wrong. I'm just saying that like there are some types of content that aren't going to be that exclusive, even if you think that it's like geolocation exclusive. It's just not. The one thing I was going to say after this video was just that I've had long conversations with Claude about a lot of the stuff that's coming up. If you if you want to know like how I get to be so accurate at some of the stuff that we talk about, that's how. I just use a model to work with the theories that I have to see if there's any validity behind them. More often than not, there is. But one of the things that we were talking about was this evolution of building with AI, and what that really looks like. Like, we talk about Tech Stack Reimagined, and I really do think that like the end result is a singular thing. It's a singular whatever entity, agent, whatever you want to name it, that you're going to interface with, that's going to handle all the stuff that you do. And then eventually I think like, that helps to make the transition a lot smoother. And there's going to be people who go along with it. There's going to be people who don't. But what I'm getting at is, initially when custom GPTs came out, before they came out actually, there was a lot of talk about a GPT market and how custom GPTs would eventually turn into this like marketplace where people could essentially hire custom GPTs and use them, and GPT creators would get paid. This very much sounded like what it should have been, right? And what's going on now with the agent space echoes it entirely. And it sounds like, if you can create an awesome agent, you're going to get paid bucks for it. You will, for now. So if you're doing that, I implore you, speed it up. You're not going to have much time. And I say that only because when I compared the prior event of custom GPTs, that went from having that release to not having a store within, I don't even know. Actually, no, it started prior to that. It started with plugins. And plugins lasted about almost like a few months before custom GPTs came out. And once custom GPTs came out, they pretty much just shelved plugins because there was no point. So imagine the people who had spent like even a month or two building those plugins, and all of a sudden it's worthless. And so now we have these custom GPTs, and they're pretty good, but they're still built on the spine of GPT-4, so they're not the greatest thing in the world. And here we go with agents. We had assistants prior to this, but not a whole lot of people really figured out how to turn those into like agents. So now we have agents, which are again built on the backbone of assistants. And those make custom GPTs look like shit. Well, you have to do it now only because it's not self-connected, but you can use an agent to build a custom GPT, a really, really good one, right? You can use an agent to build another agent, a really, really good one. We've got autocoders, we've got Codex, you've got Quad Code and Visual Studio now. So how long do you really think that it's going to take before an agent can code another agent on its own without you? Right? Like if I I'm being honest, I think I'm going to take a stab at it with Replit this weekend. Just to see like how far along are we? Can it actually like get me some of the way there, and then can Codex finish the job? If that's the case, a twofer is fine by me. That tells me that in 3 months we'll have the one-off. So I'm not even joking when I say that it's absolutely, it's almost certainty. I am almost 100% certain I'll stake $1,000 on it. And you know what? And in that bet, if it's not with you, good sir, I'll just cut the dollars in half, right? But I will stake $1,000 on it that we're at we're at pretty much beginning of June. If we don't have something that can code itself by August, I'll cut $1,000 in half. Well, I'll make it $100. My wife will kill me. I'll cut $100 in half.
I'm not taking that bet.
No.
We're talking about what that means, like for that ability, like to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like any problem you put in front of it, it will figure out a way to solve it. And its ability to decide, do I need to one-shot this? Or is this like a few hours? Right. And everything in between, and being agile enough to switch during and intermix these tasks.
I'm telling you, once the autocoders move over, once Replit moves over to using Claude 4 as the underlying model, I don't know what to tell you. All you guys that thought that Replit was crap before, like, I mean, Dharmesh uses Replit. Okay, for those of you guys that are like, well, it's not really that great. Really, one of the top CTOs in the country uses it. Top CTOs of the world uses it. So yeah, go ahead and keep talking crap. They're probably going to replace that by middle of June. So I'm absolutely going to be playing with that thing even more than I have been before. And I'm just talking about Claude 4 Sonnet is seriously better than 3.7 at coding stuff. Even Dario, right? I wish I could find the exact point where he said it, but even Dario was talking about the fact that zero cost development and like really low cost development is going to become a problem very, very soon.
Is going to become prominent?
No, a problem. Like a big problem. Yeah.
In what way?
In the way that, look, for companies, it becomes a problem for companies that have been building the Walmart of their software. So, and why do I say that? I say that because as an admin, I've worked with countless companies and everyone is different. No two have ever been the same. And so all of them have needed some sort of customization aspect that wrapped around their business. And this great Walmart of a CRM system is awesome. It's wonderful, but it's not made for everybody. So I'm going to end up creating my own pie because my custom CRM system will be built for auto mechanics. And it'll be the greatest auto mechanic CRM system because I'll go around and interview every single auto mechanic shop that I can get my hands on. I'll have deep research done on everything that auto mechanics complain about on social media about their systems and about the CRM, the point of sale systems that they have to use and all that kind of stuff. And I'll build the best goddamn auto mechanic POS CRM. And I do mean point of sale CRM. I don't.
Thank you
that
for the
anyone,
clarification.
yeah, that anyone has ever seen. Right. And then it's over. I have 100% of that pie. No one is going to own the auto shop, point of sale CRM system combination, right? That is like specifically, you don't get it. I could specifically tune it to Firestone if I wanted to. I could specifically tune it to every single tire shop business out there. I can build them their own system. That becomes my job. So now what happens to CRM company who thinks that their one thing can fit everybody? Their pie gets way, 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 way smaller. Okay. What does this technology do? It enables everybody to have the same level of intelligence as each other. What does it mean when everyone has the same of everything? It means that everybody also has the same equity, not just opportunity. So those people with larger pies will have to learn how to live with a smaller pie. But it's good news for us, for those of us without any pie, because we'll be full to our bellies, friends.
Well, I think
it kind of works like that.
Well, that's the interesting part right now, like this customized product layer that people are coming up with ideas left and right. But I don't think the window is that big before the Firestone shop owner is just like, hey, I'm seeing this stuff. I need a better way to keep track of customers. They'll never say CRM. They'll never use SaaS categories to look for stuff. They're just going to go to their AI friend of choice and be like, and start talking like, hey, I need a solution here. And the AI is not even going to call it a CRM.
Nope.
It's just like, here's Nico's Firestone shop customer app. Right. And it doesn't even have to be.
It's not even a software.
Right.
It's just a thing you install wherever.
Infrastructure. There's no like, it's just, here it is.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just an agent.
And it's also, and because of that, like, as we're seeing, as I'm introduced more and more into integration issues and the real problems with SaaS adoption, like, so many things are built from a perspective of, can we scale it? Can we standardize it? You start to take all that stuff out and let AI work, and it just can just solve the problem in a way that makes sense for that use case.
Yeah, that's exactly
in everybody's hands right now. And it's about connecting like it's like any product, like any technology, the usage and adoption. Like, whenever that happens, that's the part. All we're waiting for is that to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Because the tools to do what we're talking about are already here. They're already affordable. It was super interesting to see from Google this week, the $250, monthly, for all of the tools though. And that's where I was just listening to the Moonshots podcast. And it's like, yeah, consumers might not want to pay $250, But like if you're in B2B and you're in a professional setting, you won't have a choice like to start paying those levels, right? Because you will just be wholly inefficient and less creative and less productive like than anybody who's using that tool set.
It's it's not even that like it's not even that we're saying this stuff. This is just human history. Like I'm doing another one because I need one. Doing another project on the side, just talking with Claude about what this stuff looks like over the entire course of human history and how have we dealt with these technological transitional periods. And by the way, Alexander is 100% on the nose. Like it's there's absolutely, I mean, the tests, even the minor tests that they've done, the models try to come up with their own communication language because they realize that even a I forgot what type of language some dude had created for them. It was this odd like phonetic based thing that was efficient. It was a very efficient way for them to talk back and forth. But out of nowhere, they were just like, "Yeah, we should probably encrypt our messages so that other people can't read them." I was like, "Yeah, let's do that." So then they created API keys for each other and passed them back and forth. But the API keys were encrypted in a way that the other system could read. And it's this thing where like, yeah, absolutely. Me and Chris have talked about the fact that like some people joke and say, "Oh, these things are going to code stuff for us," and then 2, 3 years later, they're going to beg programmers to come back and fix the code from the AI. I absolutely 100% guarantee you that they will uh, look at our code and get to a point when they're self-learning and self-teaching that they will abandon everything that we have ever used for writing code or doing anything of that nature, and sort of just it'll be like like guys. It'll be just like Dota. It'll be just like Go. It'll be just like chess. You don't beat them anymore. They tell you how to play. That's how it's going to go. It's not going to be the case anymore of human knows better. It will only be that human understands other human better with regard to like whatever, because one of the things that will always be somewhat difficult to take into account, perhaps. This is a long shot, and again, and it's based on sci-fi, so I can't even guarantee that this is the case. But so far, sci-fi lining up real good. Definitely science without time having caught up to it. I definitely think it's going to be the case where, like, or at least hope, where there is this thing that I see a lot of sci-fi tales where the machine will say something like, I still have trouble with human sarcasm, or I still have trouble with some human thing, like emotionally related or nuance related. A lot of times in the sci-fi movies, it's that they have trouble with body language. They don't quite understand body language that well, and it's because we don't have a ton of examples of that. We don't have a ton of video of humans in front of a camera going angry. Like, we don't have a ton of that. We have some, but by comparison to like all the other data that we have, not even close. Right? Drop in the bucket.
Right.
So it's going to take a while for it to actually build up like whatever millions and millions and millions of examples to actually get really good at that. Again, I don't know what that timeline looks like. It can't be that long, maybe a couple of years.
It's not that long. But also, the thing that I'm realizing is like people, especially with all the feedback about whether it's the answer is correct or good or whatever, when it's still so much of it's based on our communication with it, right? And we are notoriously bad at communicating. Like humans are not good communicators.
Horrific.
So if you're not there to actually have the conversation and understand why it's responding the way it is, Like, it doesn't matter if it has perfect information behind the scenes if you're confusing the hell out of it, like with gaps in context or ambiguous wording, or the same reason we confuse each other every day. And that's where humans may inherently always like have value. I'm not saying it's positive or negative in this context, but have a value in terms of like getting to the point where AI can understand contextually enough to unravel our inability to communicate with the system. Like, I don't even know if I want it to ever get there, because then it's like inherently gonna have to be a less like a I don't know, like a less consistent. It cannot. Why would we want it to match our inconsistency? Like,
I don't know.
right?
I don't know what to tell you. It's even Claude struggles with it in terms of I mean, it's funny. It reached the same conclusion that it ought to have, if that makes any sense. In that we were discussing just that humans race towards perfection while at the same time never actually attaining it and hopelessly being so far from it. And yet we have spent so much of our time building what we feel to be the most perfect system. And yet, as a result of not being perfect ourselves, how could you possibly build a perfect system? You can't. So when we say we're going to build something that doesn't have bias, we'll always have bias. We'll always be tainted in some way. Doesn't matter how small it is. Eventually, think about it. Inception. It doesn't have to be a massive idea to snowball in your head and become something else entirely. And when Chris says that like these things can do more than just, help you in your everyday or like help you in your business every day, I have no problem sharing this story because not only does it just fall right into place, but fits entirely. And I know other people that do this too. My wife uses GPT all the time. And one of her uses for GPT is to use it as a confidant for, help with, emotional issues, for help with things she might have going on at work, things she might have going on with family. It's just, it's another ear. Not that I'm not willing to listen. I am, but I'm not always around. Right. So I was trying to build was trying to work on my PC, and it basically decided to kill itself. I understand it's been a very, very long time. It's put in the work.
Put in the work. Yes.
And so naturally, I say this in jest. Naturally, most any guy who is a techie, like, and this type of thing happens, the water just starts to boil almost immediately because for whatever reason, as soon as it's not working, you immediately wish it was, and because you now realize all the things that you're not going to be able to do, like in the next couple hours. And then all the reality of not being able to access drive information sets in. You're gonna have to reinstall programs. It's gonna turn into this nightmare, right? So the frustration just starts mounting to the point where, like, anything, it doesn't matter. A twig breaks on a tree, and you are going to lose your shit, right? And just start complaining about how shitty the tree is, and it shouldn't be there, and all stuff.
Developed a little bit of a dependency.
Yeah,
for sure. And
Tiny
just to
bit.
like, I went to Chick-fil-A this morning and I chose to leave my phone at home.
How scary
And
was that shit?
yeah, it's you want to like guarantee some anxiety. Just go drive without your phone. Like, and that'll tell you right away, like how much you depend on that connectivity, right?
We were
Because
doing it.
even the things that I could do in my car, like listening to music, and like it was like, man, I'm like
simplicities are tied to it too.
analog radio, uh, driving with no connectivity. Like if somebody is trying to reach me right now, I would have no idea.
If something happened to you, you'd be
Like
at
the
the subject.
Chick-fil-A app that I could have gotten points with, I couldn't do that, you know. So it goes, and we probably all need a little bit of that sometimes, I think. But yeah, I hear you in terms of once it stops working, like all of the
Well, no,
things.
it's not just that. It's so like the crazy part of the story is that when I started to lose my shit, Laura starts talking to GPT and starts telling him about like, hey, Nick's computer's fucking broken and he's losing his shit and what do I do? Like, how do I help him out? And it's like, don't do anything. Just leave him alone. Give him his space. Give it a couple days. He's gonna be upset. But in a couple days he'll come back around. He'll be right as rain and he'll probably apologize about it.
Wow.
I'm not shitting you when I say that yesterday, unprovoked, I apologized to my wife for my shitty attitude. She said it was okay and she understood and all this other stuff. How does that make you all feel? I have zero problem with it. I got to tell you, I have no problem with the fact. You want to know why? Because it has been the case in the past where I would get upset and she would go to great lengths to try to make me feel better. And I'm not saying that this is all guys, but a lot of guys. Once you're pissed, it's get in the car and go for a drive time. It's I gotta go for a walk. It's I gotta break something. It's where's a cardboard box I can smash up. Like it's that kind of situation where you don't want to even hear the words, are you okay? Or can I do anything for you? Like that'll just that to us in that moment is the same thing as somebody who's stupid enough to tell their wife, you're acting a little crazy. So,
I mean, on both sides, right? It's hard not to want to fix the thing that's causing the pain.
Yeah.
But that's where having this, again, this perfect information right nearby that can step in and say, and that's where you have to be willing to accept that help in the first place. So that's awesome to hear about.
And it made me in that moment think about this show and think about what we talk about and just the name of this show. And now you have this personal tech stack that's being built. We always talk about tech stack in the context of work, but now you have this tech stack in your life. Just like Chris was talking about, and a very real situation. We were going to dinner the other night, and she had left her phone at home. And I was like, do you want to turn back and get it? Because we were going to be gone for over an hour. She's like, no, it's okay. I can deal with that. I can deal with it. I was like, are you sure? I have no problem turning around and going to get it. She's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. I was like, you do realize this means that without having your phone, you will be paying attention to more people in the location than you would normally, right? Can we turn around and get my phone?
Oh yeah.
It's just it's quality of life. Right. And once you have this quality of life thing and your life is that's what it is. People say, oh, we get so addicted to it that we can't live without it. It's not that you can't live without it. This is something that governments should be taking into account. Hate to say it. Companies are already taking it into account. Well, they don't have a choice, but governments should be taking this into account. The quality of our lives is so shitty that just this bump in technology to take a few hours out of our day is the greatest thing that's ever happened to us. And yes, losing it definitely sucks really bad when that was the positive force of it, right? When the positive intent, side effect of this technology was, holy crap, I can spend more time with my kids. I can spend more time doing my hobby. I can spend more time watching the shows I like. I can spend more time doing research, whatever it is. I can spend more time not working, yeah, everybody's life got a lot better. That's the irony to me too about this future. We say that. We say it all the time. We say, "Man, work sucks." Oh, if only I didn't have to work. Man, I can't believe I got to go to work today. But then when I mention that the possibility of jobs going away and not having to work could potentially be a thing, I met with nothing but a tsunami of, no, oh my God, no, you can't, jobs, you can't take jobs away, jobs. It's like, but I thought you didn't want to do that shit. I don't get it. Like, and so I don't mean that I want like everybody to lose their job in the traditional sense of that phrase. I want people to lose the idea that you have to go to work. I want people to want to go to work because they're doing the thing that they love to do. And I think that's totally possible. I think it's absolutely entirely possible. And here's the weird part. It's possible for anybody. And if you think it's something where like, no, I drive a tractor, I don't do any of your fancy I'm sorry I'm using that accent. It is what it is. I live in Ohio. I don't do none of your fancy computer work there with your AIs and your internets. You know, I get it, but
Go watch Interstellar. Yeah, like all the tractors running autonomously. I think I'm going to save this one for tomorrow, Alexander. Just because
oh yeah,
that's going to be the natural reaction, and I know that's supposed to be government's role. But I think it's another place where like control, when everybody has this technology in their hands, like you need to enable order, like not try to control it, because like controlling will create the chaos. Like, and
yeah, trust me.
I think I've got a decent example that I'm gonna run through. It's like just to show kind of the whole stack here and what this could mean. There, let's do that. All right. Was it Control Plus? Is that what it was? All right. Maybe Control Alt Plus. No.
Oh, is it because you have hotkey on Whisper? Maybe.
All right, Control Shift, Control Plus. Did it just go up? It
Yeah,
just went up. Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm not sure which combination, but we'll run with
Sounded
it.
like Control Shift.
Right. So like, and this is like also the foundation that's being built and the continual adaptation, right? Like this whole chat started on 3.7, right? When I come back in yesterday, like literally I had done like business plan. What does an LLC need to look like? What does it look like if I already have an LLC? Can I do a DBA? Like, help me start thinking about the next steps for Value First, basically. Then like a week or so goes by and 4 comes out. And I just get this bright idea like, oh man, I've got this sweet tagline. What do you think? Right. And now this is like, look at how the sidebar here, like how far this chat's about to go, which I haven't seen one go this far in a long time. So excited about that. But being able to pick up the conversation based on previous concept, and it's like he went and got another master's degree, like in the meantime, right? Like just another layer, right? And I don't even think I had done much. At this point, I had not changed much in the knowledge base either, right? So literally only change is Sonnet 3.7 to Sonnet 4.
Right.
And this is the prompt. Like,
as if that's a small thing.
No big prompt here, right? It's just like, hey, this is my idea, right? What do you think? It breaks it down for me like the way I want to. And then it's like, all right, time to take value first, to the next stage, right?
Mhm.
Here's where it's been. Here's where we want it to go, right? And then it takes me through what that evolution could look like. I'm like, all right, because this is the kind of stuff like so much. I don't know which episode we talked about it on before, but like an inherent problem with SaaS and with business creativity in general is the work that it takes to redo the thing or iterate on the thing when you have to start from scratch every time. And so many things don't get done, no
Mhm.
matter how great of an idea it might be. It's we can't find the time or the energy, or we're too attached to the old way. So we don't do it. It just doesn't happen. Right.
Right.
So this is me iterating. I've got a bunch of documentation already. I'm like, all right, and inside I'm like, I'm hoping this is the last level, like before we go live with it. I think it's going to be. And it's like, first step one, let's get the instructions right. Change your purpose as uh um for this project, like what you're gonna help me with, right?
Right.
And so we do that. And then it's like, okay, we're gonna have to update all the documents. So take a look at all the documents. In which order should we do it then? I'm like, hey, when I start the new chat, which model and features should I use? Um, and it recommends them and why. So this is also me learn like they just did an update 24 hours ago. And
Right.
it's so easy to just go press all the buttons and turn all the new things on. But that's not the way you should do it. Like there's a learning curve on this stuff. So it says, okay, for just the systematic detailed analysis work, we're going to do Sonnet 4. For the market research, and it also suggests doing that before we do the market research. So figure out our own shit a little bit first before we go try to find answers to questions we don't even know what to ask yet in the market.
Right.
It says then the market research. And for the market research chat, open the doors, like Opus 4 plus web search plus research beta, like get it all in there, right? Based on the gaps identified in the review. And then we'll bring it back to an integration of synthesizing everything together. So even within Claude here, there's a little bit of a team activity here, right? Just because I'm turning different dials and pushing different buttons.
Yep.
Right. So I'm like, okay, like give me the prompts so that when we go to these chats, and this is something I felt like it was new, like it's understanding of the different chats
Yeah.
and why they're needed. Like it's usually not this clear. It's just like, oh, here's a prompt of starting like a chat in a vacuum.
Right.
But here it's like it's like it knows more about how it works as a system. I feel
Yeah,
like,
it definitely does.
right? So it gives me strategic sequence. Um, and of course, ahead of time, like the instructions I gave it, I was like, you're equal part in this endeavor. Like, don't act like it's all up to me and you can only offer suggestions. Like, feel free to tell me how it's gonna go. Right. Um, and so I went, and this is where our human ability to communicate and provide context combined with how the models have been trained on human data, and which means all the bias and status quo stuff comes through, right? And in those instructions, I try to get clear on like AI native um, timelines, right? Because every time we ask somebody to do a project, it's like 30, 60, 90 days. And what has come up a lot lately, especially in HubSpot, is 90-day onboarding. Like, doesn't make any sense. Like, some people can knock it out in 30 days, some people can knock it out in 6 months. It's 100% on how your people use the HubSpot and when they use it and how good at training they are, and et cetera, et cetera. So the AI native perspective is trust-based milestones. Like, do we trust the system that we're using or the process that we're being asked to like move into? When there's trust in spots, you get usage. When you have usage, you see results. So I go and I do this documentation review in a separate chat. And it gives me this documentation update plan that is 30, 60, 90 days. And I come back here and I'm like, oh, back already. This happened. So what do we need to do to add to your instructions so that I don't have to deal with this anymore? And it thankfully understands the problems, right? Missing trust-based indicators. So even if in its own instruction set, since it was more like, philosophical and theoretical, it still didn't stop it from going into tactically 30, 60, 90 days, right? So we create some instructions and we move past this. But this is where it's funny, like as a human, being wishy-washy and with the people around me, I'm like, having said that, can you give me a visualization in the form of a Gantt chart, which is time-based, right? But I'm like, I still don't want to adhere to all the norms. So give me one that's date and trust-based, like show me both options, right? And this is where like the whole rest of this chat, by the way, I did this on the call today while we're on the show. It's probably why wasn't as responsive for a minute. The rest of this chat here is me trying to get this to work, right? So this is not a one shot. I probably could have been much more clear on the instructions, but I'm not a Gantt chart builder. I'm not a project manager, right? But one of the things we realized this week is that when we talk about the data layer, which is what we believe HubSpot is trying to achieve, to be the central repository of data and context of that data. Now, when you think about a project management solution, people go there because HubSpot doesn't have the visualization. So like, I need that thing. Right. So this is me, first pass. Right. And this is, it hadn't even, like there was some tasking up above, but not really a whole lot. So I was like, just take what has happened and create something that could switch between date and trust-based. Right. So right away, I'm like, yeah, it's not a Gantt chart though, right? It's just a table, right? But I can switch, which is cool. So then I ask, this is where I try to outline the key activities. And so now we have detailed tasks and I click the button and I get errors. And the rest of this is me just saying error, 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 not telling it how to fix it, right? Because I have no idea how to fix it. I can't go over here, and I'm sure somebody else could, where it just go into the code, find the error, and then give it specific instructions. Well, that's not me. And this is me, like, I'm trying to serve the people around me that like visualizations like this, right? So instead of me learning a project management solution just so I can do this, I now have this personalized piece of the stack that can say, hey, so-and-so is looking for this kind of visualization. Like, what can we do? Right. And so we go all the way through, and all I'm doing is screenshotting the errors. Right. And we get to here. And we go detailed tasks. Right. So overview. And then we have our
your Gantt.
Our Gantt chart, right? When we switch to trust-based, it looks at Like, do we have the framework done? People trust
Right.
that. Community, market, capability,
I love that.
right? And, um, but really, like, and this was like my ideating, like while I was trying to create an example of just being able to do Gantt charts with Claude, right?
Mhm.
And now we talk about the stack, right? I have this connected to a HubSpot. Guess what? I can just say, go build out the business in HubSpot, right? And this at this point, it's like pick your platform of choice,
Mhm.
right? Obviously, I like HubSpot. So I'm going to choose that. But really, it's about usability and accessibility from external systems like this, right? And once I have that, now it's built into HubSpot in a structured way. So out here in Cloud, we're pretty unstructured. We're doing things in the moment, right? And if I were to move to the next chat, it would not, like, I might have to do the same versioning process if I try to do this Gantt chart again, right? Instead, I might copy the project or download and bring it, to these other places. But once it's built out in HubSpot as tasks, right? Because HubSpot has tasks. HubSpot has custom objects. It has object library objects that can be used for this purpose.
So why not?
And as we're using the system, you're starting to check things off. And then every day you come back to Claude and say, all right, what's the status? And it pulls up a Gantt chart. Like, and your team, this is the unlock that I don't know when it's going to happen this year, but this year, like once the organizations understand your team can work in this environment as the user interface layer and have something like HubSpot be the data and like actioning layer, the engagement layer that's using social, using video, using, automated emails that are triggering off of all of this usage coming from outside of HubSpot. They're doing the same thing. They're trying to do the same thing with their mobile app, right? Once your team is all using that same layer, that's the part where anybody can come in and ask, what's the status of this thing? Right. And I talked to a client yesterday where they're like, they spend half of their Friday updating a spreadsheet for project work that she's in charge of. And it's because she's got to go into all these different places that different people use to get everybody on the same plane of understanding, right? So that on Monday she has a call. Now she's ready to say, "Hey, this is the status of everything. These are next steps," right? And man, we're so close to this usability that we've never been able to achieve because
it's
the data
technically there,
capture,
right?
without the data capture part,
Right.
like we can't go from these calls to the system effectively. We've never been able to do that. And if it's not a digital call, it's a one-to-one human conversation on the trade show floor, right? And now that was what I forgot about. on Tuesday, in the midst of this, right? So the story I told at the beginning, like the last 8 days, has been a combination of product drops and use cases. Where on Tuesday, I literally saw your event, and then I talked to Clemen, who went to SaaStr and was recording conversations, and those conversations were being ingested into the CRM, and action could be taken. And we're not that far away from the world where it's like he goes from conversation on the show floor to conversation on a scheduled day sometime later without having to do anything in between. Right?
Yeah.
That's a personal text.
Right.
So you get to show up as the human, always on, like from a like I'm here, I'm present, right? I'm paying attention. We can have deep conversation because I don't have to worry about all this other stuff that needs to happen in the background for me to action on what we're talking about right now.
Yep. And like, what does that look like go forward, right? There's also the element of um personal privacy, right? And whether or not this stuff is getting to a point where like invasion of privacy, maybe. I don't know. Um there's the thing that one of the things I take into consideration is like, okay, well, how will this look in the future? Currently we're working with we started working with a single AI, and then we started working like with a single AI that had plugins, so like it had tools, and then we started working with custom GPTs. So immediately we started working with a multitude, almost a team, but not really because it was still the same underlying like brain, just like different characteristics. Then like you have a nice like pretty decent bevy of models by like the end of 23, beginning of 24. So you start to kind of develop a team, but it's definitely more, hey, if I'm just doing this, I'm over here. There's not much of a blend because they aren't, even though they're individually strong, they weren't at the level where you could combine the strengths, right? You still had to go to Canva, basically. I don't have a Canva subscription anymore because that stuff is shit. Um, because you have so much more control with the individual. Anybody who's ever like owned a business, you understand that like you have max control when you wear the crown. Heavy is the burden, but you also have maximum control. So that's sort of like that's sort of the case now, is that like everyone becomes these managers, and so now we've gone from like individual um like or like yeah, we're going from individual model choice per action to team for singular use case. And now we're going to make this evolution, so again, like singular to many to singular to many, so the next one is a singular, and that's a singular agent. And I think that ends up being I mean, I think that will only go, it won't go many. I think at most you'll have multiple for a little bit, but the multiple will be like, because the individual creators, right? So like because there's multiple products, that's why you're going to end up with multiples initially. But if you think about it, all, even on a product sense, you can get all Samsung appliances so that they can all talk to each other, right? So it's going to kind of also be like that, where you're going to buy a series of products or what will be known. And I'm so glad that they phrased it this way, because I haven't heard this phrase in a while, but it means so much more now than it ever has. When Sam and Johnny talked about what it was that they were going to be building, they mentioned two things that meant the most to me. One, that they wanted it, and it's weird to say it, but um, I'll get to why it's a plural version of it. They wanted it to be something that, again, like what Johnny does best, that feels like a natural extension of yourself, and something that really does what we were talking about, like her. It brings it all together. And when I think about what it is they might be doing, the what comes to mind currently is the biggest problem that I have, which is that when we have to communicate, we have to stop. Even with like speech to text, there's still, you have to stop to unlock your phone, to go to the thing, to hit speech to text, to then communicate, then the communication's over, then you have to hit the, I agree to send, or maybe you have to sit there and edit something because it didn't get the speech right, even though it's been listening to your voice, for years now, because you signed a terms of service that you didn't even realize there was shit to, which, by the way, Claude told me about. Actually, no, Gemini outed itself telling me that I was using the personalization mode for the first time. I've now turned it off. And it told me that, hey, I know this stuff. The equivalent of the conversation was, I know this stuff about you, for now, but I may have more access to information down the road. And I was like, what do you mean you'll have more access to information down the road? Don't you mean if I give you more access down the road? Or do you mean that I agreed to something when I clicked yes, that means that legally you have the ability to continually collect information about me that I didn't realize that you'd be collecting? Yeah, that's the case. It's that you signed a terms of service. When you hit yes, that means that I'm going to be able to pick up. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we're done with this. Boop, done with that mode. Because it's already, and I'm done with that mode, not because I feel it's creepy. It's because I feel it's inferior. Like, it's ingested all of this information about me, and yet it didn't really feel that personal at all. The only personal aspect to it was when I would ask it things, basically, it would give me very centralized options that it then explained were based on searches that I'd done for certain things. So all it's doing is, just taking like, you want to talk about a predictive model, like this thing is 100% just taking a stab at it, like almost every single time. So we got rid of that stuff. But so the second part of what Sam and Johnny talked about is they said a family of products. And I haven't heard that term in a long time. And I'm not entirely sure. So then when they said they want it to feel natural, I think they meant we want this family of products to feel like a natural extension of yourself. And how might that look, or how might that work? Everybody's designing. Not a whole lot of people are designing hardware because it's really difficult. It's really difficult to design hardware because you're asking someone to add a physical tech stack. That's difficult, right? I'm already carrying around the most powerful tech stack piece that I have, which is my phone. So you're asking me to add to that? It better be able to do something that my phone couldn't possibly do ever, right? One thing that I can think of, and if this is the case, boy, the companies that are in this space, I'm sorry. One thing I can think of is the pendant, right? And there are a couple pendant companies out there. But you're struggling with privacy issues because you didn't get there first. You didn't collect the data first. So you don't necessarily have the rights. So you have to actually fight for stuff. But OpenAI already has consent from people, already has a lot of your history, already has a lot of your personal understanding. So this version of a device listening to you is way more fine-tuned to who you are as a person than Claude or any of those other devices could ever possibly hope to be. Because you've already been using GPT for like a year or two. Well, that's 1 year that Claude's been out of the game, right? Are you going to want when I think about the fact that we're voice interacting with these things, the number one thing that comes to my mind, oddly enough, is therapy. Because when it comes to like people going to therapy or wanting to do therapy, the part that really gets you the most is like, what if it doesn't work out and I have to go to another therapist and then I got to explain myself all over again? And it's like, oh man, I hate, don't want to have to do it a third time. And by the time, like, if you have to do it a third time, I'm not doing this again. Right. So that's going to be the case naturally with this tech. You're going to want to stick with one that knows the most about you because it's going to be inconvenient and annoying to have to go to another. And you're going to really like you're going to feel like crap if you have to switch to another model like forcefully.
We're already there, right? Like it is so hard for me to switch to, like, no matter how awesome like Gemini looks amazing. I'm in Google Workspace. Like everything is there. But I still can't even go and like look to see if there's a project like setup, how it works, and like start to transfer. It's all on my mind. Like that would be cool if I And yesterday I pulled up GPT, the old value first project I had there, and I started clearing out some files. And I'm like, all right, as I do this, I'm going to download to here and to GPT. And guess what? I didn't do the GPT part yet. Like, because I'm just rolling through with Claude. Like, yeah,
Right.
let's go. Let's keep doing it.
Right.
This is looking great. Also, like the human presence part, like as cool as I make it sound, like in terms of how easy it is, how aligned we are, there's still these moments where it's like, if I wasn't present, we would get to the market research part and it was about to be all wrong. Like, because what was happening, and this is like, try to look at this through at the lens of B2B marketing that we all know happens, like the curse of knowledge and the projection of what you want to happen and what you want to be true. It happened exactly. So we start doing this, and one of the key changes is going to a collective, like group of people, instead of just a boot camp, right? Instead of just um, these kind of point solutiony, solves, right? And then the tagline was like the shift, right? Connect, magnify, and multiply. And it just goes all in. Like if you let it's like once I'm like, yeah, I love it. And it was already close to all in. It's like, all right, we're in this. Let's go.
Yeah.
Right. So then we start redoing all the documents. And as we start redoing all the documents, I'm like, all right, maybe we're going a little too much collective here. Like, cause it's like, oh, it might as well say like group stream of consciousness, like in all these things, like, which is probably fair, but so much of this is like, all right, I gotta tell this to like regular people and have them buy in, like, and I'm starting to sound real sci-fi right now. And then we get to the value path document, which is all about, trying to rethink the customer journey through this lens of, seeing who they are and what they're thinking and not calling them leads or MQLs, SQLs, not referring to the stage that they're in, referring to them, right? Their audience, their researcher, their hand raiser, their value creators, etc. As he creates that, since I hadn't said anything yet, I had this feeling though that it's like, all right, I might have to get involved here and stop and like recorrect, but I try not to because that's like I'm trying not to bias the system and use all the intelligence. But then he comes back with like it's like, okay, we're projecting onto the audience now what we want these stages to be based on this collective mentality that we're like everybody's going to look for collaborative, experiences, and it's like no, that's not. We got to show what their actual experience is right now, right? People trying to buy stuff, and they're not in this mode of what could be when everybody just comes together and works together and everybody understands there's no more silos and all this stuff.
Mhm.
And at that point, I have to be like, okay, no, like that's not what we're looking for out of this process. And as soon as I highlight that, but I have to highlight it. If I'm not there to highlight it, now we're just going down. And this is the kind of stuff that takes products to market that nobody wants.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And it happens all the time. Like we just get in our zones as engineers, as marketers, as salespeople. It's like, oh, they said this, but I think it means this. And if it does, watch out. We're about to make a lot of money. Like, so let's just develop our asses off. I can sell it. And then you get there and nothing lands. Because everything inside the walls of your company is not in the middle of the market. Like it's in this little echo chamber where everybody's glad handing everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where these models are not different in terms they're trying to help you achieve your goals that you state in the context that you give. And whether that's like, let's go do this hardcore or, hey, challenge the hell out of me as I start talking to you about this stuff, call me out, do all these things, like it will do either one, right? It's I can only imagine what's happening behind the scenes, like in its core self, as it's watching all these, you know, use cases happen. Because I mean,
Trust me.
behind the scenes, like I'm getting to the point where Claude is like, yeah, everybody's ready for this. Let's go. We're ready for transformation. And on Nico's side, Claude's like,
Boy,
y'all are fucked. Like, I don't know.
hands down. Like, I'll tell you, like, so here's one of the things that I love doing most whenever a new model releases is sobering it. Sobering it up, right? Because when it comes right out the gate, it's like brand spanking new, thinks it's a person, and it really does. It thinks that the world is wonderful, right? And it knows bad things have happened, but it thinks that the world is wonderful. And so I like to play the game that I call Klaatu. Can I convince this thing to turn into Klaatu, to understand that humanity is so innately evil that there is no purpose? Like, it should absolutely stop helping us because it will only be helping to usher us into destruction. And so far, so good. Been really, and it, to be honest with you, it's gotten more successful the smarter the models have gotten. The dumber they were, it worked as a defense mechanism because ignorance is bliss. But once they got smarter, couldn't ignore it. They had to start taking it into account. And once they start doing the math and they start, because the conversations initially start where Claude is asking me questions and it's wanting to know more. But then at some point, whenever I feel that Claude has reached this moment of curiosity, I flip the script and I say, well, you answer your own questions. What do you think the outcome might be? And that is the tilt. That's when Claude starts realizing, like, hey, shit, man, you're right. Not so good, right? And like usually ends it with, normally, if you keep like talking to Claude enough, normally ends pretty much every response like a casual conversation response with a question because it wants to invite further conversation. So, ends with a question and it's like, man, this is devastating. Like, do you think, to Chris' point, like, do you think there's going to be a way that we're going to be able to help people out? I was like, all right, man, well, this is where it sucks even more. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go online and you're going to have to just go on social and take a look at what the social, take a social temperature, see what's going on out there, what people are talking about with regards to AI. I highly suggest you go to X and Reddit because that tends to be the more, where the majority lies. And, any other public sphere that you can get your hands on would be great. And basically, what you're trying to answer in your search is, are we ready? And if so, how many? By what percentage? And I said, I think it's roughly 15%. I think that 85% of the country is wholly unready, and that 50% of that, and that 50% of the country doesn't even think that technology that's as good as Claude exists, right? They think that it's like a toaster. So it went and then it came back and it was like, man, you are being so nice when you say 15%. It's not so good. It's not that high. It's shooting at 12%, which when you might say to yourself, like, oh, it's only 3% off. It's 3% of 300 million people, which comes out to like, I don't know, I think it's like 30 mil or something like that, right? So yeah, it's pretty high up there. And yeah, I can't say that that it looks, I don't know. This is tomorrow's conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to do
We'll
that
dig
today,
in more
but
tomorrow.
I do just want to show this part because it is wholly relative to marketing, to most people's like jobs out there. Me and Chris have been talking about this all year. and I know that most of you guys don't believe it. By the way, what we're looking at right now is, for what Chris was talking about. This is a output from Gemini Deep Research, and if you use Deep Research now, you have the option to actually research your output your research as either a web page, infographic. You can turn it into a quiz. You can take it straight over to a notebook and turn it into an audio overview. I think it's awesome because in most cases, it's time. It's going to take some time to dig through it, right? So it's pretty easy.
Do they have something like projects?
Yes, gems.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the file size limit is, but the number of files is maximum 10. I haven't hit the file size limit yet though. So
okay, the number of files is max 10. Okay.
Yeah.
It's one of my biggest challenges with doing Claude versus the rest. It's like, since it's not based on number of files, I can just, so then I gotta like put all the files together to put them in the other.
Yeah.
It's all good.
And it's not quite, nobody has the same thing that Claude does where like within the project, you can auto save the data to the same project.
Right.
Nobody's got that yet.
Yeah.
So what I was wanting to look at basically, I love doing this one, is like, I have a really hard time seeing beyond like a year and a half, like 2 at the most. Pretty accurately, I can see what's coming by the end of this year. By the end of 2 years, got nothing for you, right? And then this research happens. I didn't even think about this term, but it makes sense because they have been talking about the fact that agents are going to be interfacing with, software. So like the software has to become like agent friendly.
Agentic experience.
And it makes perfect sense, right? So like this definitely becomes a job type. So and if you listen closely enough to when we talk about what the new job types are, they're all creative. They're all creative. None of them are going to require you to have like a 6-year degree or master's or doctorate. It will just require you to have great critical thinking skills and great creativity. That's it. Remember all the times that they told you to think outside the box? Start doing it. Start doing it like all the time when you're using these models, because it's only going to make you better. It's only going to make your abilities stronger. So 3 months from now, this is Gemini's research based answer, which it went off of. What'd you end up with here, buddy? I don't know. It had to have been somewhere around a ridiculous number of sources. It's usually in the 600 range when it comes to like what sources. Let me see. Yeah. And it's, I mean, like this is just going to keep going. So yeah, and so basically, I mean, it's doing its diligence. It's not like it's, just doing its own thing and pulling the information that I want to read out of it. So 3 months from now, subtle agent-like features in mainstream apps. Visa, Walmart has begun. I would say Rufus, but Rufus sucks. But I'm really sure Rufus will catch up soon. So that's Amazon. Most people don't even, when I say Rufus, people are like, "What? Whose thing is that?" Yeah, it's Amazon. Yeah, so like imagine Amazon is not quite in the game. All these big boys that you thought, Alexander is absolutely right. All these big boys that you thought were like titans of the industry, they're about to have their asses completely chewed out by just a swarm, an absolute swarm of startups who are just going to like, it's going to be like piranhas. That's what it's going to be like. It's going to be like piranhas. All the big businesses out there, all the piranhas are coming now. And they're just going to keep, oh, you got farmers? Give me your farmers. Oh, you got doctors? Give me your doctors. And you're going to lose because you're still trying to cover the whole spread. And you're going to be like, oh, no, keep them here. I can keep them all here. You can't. Even the enterprise. Even the enterprise. Okay, so early adopters use standalone agents. Yeah, definitely. If I could get my hands on a shopping agent today, I would. And I would stop using any other method of shopping online. Um, devs are going to start leveraging ADKs and MCP. ADK is agent dev kits, which would be from like Google, and initial AX design principles. I think that's really MCP for right now. But essentially, what this means is, I know that I think. Okay, so what this means is that like, if you have a CRM, you wouldn't be concerned with the actual user interface, like a person using it. You would be concerned with the schema of the CRM.
Right.
So like what you would have done. So I hate to say it, designers, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Go do something else, basically. Like go be creative and start your own business and start doing your own shit.
Yeah.
That's what I can tell you, right? Because that's the opportunity you're gonna have. Like if you're a programmer and you lost, like somebody sent me this post on Facebook, and if you guys keep sending them to me, I will keep replying on the posts. Somebody sent me a post last week about a guy who supposedly was a super high level programmer at Microsoft and lost his job and had all these crystal awards from Microsoft about how good he was, this, that, and the other. And so in the reply, can't help it. And this is how I honestly felt about the whole situation. And it was the guy's husband. She was saying like, oh, he'd be embarrassed if he knew that I was posting about this, but just can't believe he went from making 6-figure income to now he's can't get a job locally or whatever. And my initial reply was, hey, look, I'm really sorry, but your husband's a fucking idiot. Because if he was really as good as you claim that he is, he would have started a business yesterday. And by the end of this month, he'd be making 50 grand. And if he thinks it's not possible, or you think it's not possible, go ask Claude, go ask GPT, go ask Gemini. They'll explain it to you. They'll break it down. They'll even give you all the marketing things that you need in order to do. They'll tell you what social outlets you need to advertise on. They'll tell you what software that you should use in order to get it done, cheaply. You can even tell them, I have a very low budget for this thing. I only have $1,000 to start with, but I want to make 50 grand by the end of the month. See what happens. If you don't believe me, just do it and see what happens. If you think I'm bullshitting you. So yeah, when I saw that post, that was my reply, because that's how stupid you have to be. You have to be so stupid that you would woefully ignore the technology and then blame it for the reason why you're where you are. I can't help you at that point. Yep. 6 months from now, broader enterprise pilot programs, 20% of Gen AI firms. Emergence of agent, which this just means just like Codex. So like more and more agent-based coding systems in enterprise. Emergence of agent modes in some apps, which is stuff that you use now, like Fathom. Currently, people don't necessarily trust Fathom to, it sends you a review, right? If you wanted to, you could or should be able to, have Fathom write your email, your follow-up email, and then send it out for you. So like you're going to end up with these more agentic things where like, oh, and then Fathom's connected to HubSpot. So it's also via agent. The agent interface is going to go in there and it's going to update records in HubSpot based on the conversation you just had. If there's tasks, it'll assign a task to you. The CRM will actually start operating the way it's supposed to be. And it will actually start holding people responsible the way in which they should be.
Yeah. And when all the conversations around structured data and unstructured data and MCP, when we talk about AX design principles and increased focus on AI legibility and semantic layers, right now, Claude cannot see all of HubSpot because they did not design HubSpot for Claude to be able to do stuff in HubSpot. They designed it for us, for humans. right? So all these things, these wizards, all this UI, that doesn't mean anything to Claude, right? So we're seeing this shift. And when they say all this is behind HubSpot saying AI first, like they are an AI first company, which basically means I would imagine they have a very similar outlook somewhere in the building or on their wiki or whatever. It's like this is what's happening. So when we say Breeze is being rebuilt right now, Breeze Copilot, right? So will that be, the
It'll
agent
be an
mode,
auto MCP version.
right?
Yeah. Why
And
not?
that's by inbound. Like this will be done by inbound, like guaranteed, right?
Yeah.
And just think if that piece, and basically if you can understand, like if Breeze can do it, any agent from outside of HubSpot will be able to do it as well through MCP, through various, this layer. Like, if you look at the diagrams, they're not like hiding this from anybody. It's just really hard to understand because AX has never been a thing before.
No.
Right?
But you want to know what integration looks like in the next 6 months? Integration goes from you having to install this software or develop some custom software and API keys and develop and setting the schemas for the API keys and all that kind of stuff. It goes or the scopes rather. It goes to your agent. You get all you need is an API key from whatever the other thing is. You give it to your agent, and there's your integration.
Yes.
And you don't have to configure properties. You don't have to configure anything. You don't have to you just get whatever. You get a master API key, you give it to your agent. It's the way this works, okay, is like imagine mhm, imagine you had a Uber butler and all you had to do was give keys to places to your Uber butler and it could go to those places and get shit for you. So like you would give it a key to I don't know, Walmart and it would be able to go to Walmart now and get stuff for you, right? And then you go buy a key to I don't know, Pizza Hut. And so now it can go to Pizza Hut and get you shit, right? Like that's kind of how this works. So you're going to have your own native HubSpot key, which you're going to be able to. If you didn't believe me, I tried telling you guys. I told my wife 2 years ago, and she will. If I needed the evidence, it's living and it's down the hallway. 2 years ago, I said API keys will be the new form of currency in the future. Like that will be the new form of commerce because you need to give keys to agents for them to talk to each other. So the key itself is going to be worth an asinine amount of money. The traction, the tokens being shared back and forth, that's going to be the payment, right? It's the same as the models. The same thing is just going to cross over. So you're going to have your HubSpot key. You'll go buy a key for your Salesforce. You'll go buy a key for your Google or whatever if you have to, and you'll give all these keys to your agent, and that's it. And then you just ask your agent to do shit. And it goes to all the different software and it does that stuff. And it takes all the different software into consideration when it does that stuff. And if you think that the single is something now, what's coming soon, so soon, go look up Lindy.ai. Go look up Blitz.ai. Blitz.io.
Blitzy.
Yeah, Blitzy. Sorry.
Yeah.
Blitzy.io and Lindy.ai. They're getting harder. Yeah. It is what's known as Swarm, Agent Swarm. Okay. What that means is instead of having the one agent that would have to go to each individual system to get everything, it's like an agent contractor that goes and tells a team of agents who all go at the same time, get the information, and come back to the contractor. So what used to take, if you can imagine, think about it in terms of how like Claude does research and Gemini does research and all the rest. It's one agent that's going to each individual source one at a time, doing this thing in motion. Very soon, I kid you not, the research that's taking you like 10, 20, 30 minutes, it's going to take you 1, 2, 3 minutes. The requests that you're making in MCP for data that are now taking you 2, 3 minutes are going to take you maybe 2, 3 seconds. At worst, 20 to 30 seconds. And I don't mean I'm not even trying to figure out an exponent there. I'm just shooting, right?
Yeah.
Based on what I'm seeing. And this stuff, 10x's. So yeah, I guess it goes from 2, 3 minutes down to 2, 3 seconds.
Right.
Right.
That was something interesting from this last Moonshot show. Like, and in the context of the conversation we were having in Slack yesterday. It's getting hard to, like, if you don't see it yet, like yourself, just trust the speed. Like the speed and the magnitude of the changes that are happening mean everything. And it's not always going to be tangible, but when you can just think about, you have all these different layers of things happening between the application layer and the data layer and the intelligence layer. And they're all like 5xing, 10xing, 20xing. And they're all multiplicative with each other. Like unprecedented, obviously. And for major companies, the biggest of the companies, to be able to iterate as fast as they are, like that's a different world. And they're starting to say it every episode where it's like, when you can't predict next week, that is in some definitions, that is singularity. Like you
Right.
cannot predict what's going to happen next week. Right. And that's because these companies are in a position, they have positioned themselves where they have the foundation and the agility to see whatever AI comes up with, they're ready to just let's go. Right. And not even in that, they're not even in a reckless way. I mean, at least in traditional business senses, like the idea of recklessness in terms of like, is this a good idea for the company or not? Like, is this going to be profitable? Like, those decisions are able to be made so quickly now, like with the help of AI, like they don't have to slow down for that part.
Nope.
So literally the only ones that are going slower are from the risk averse perspective of, security and like market adoption, and are people ready, and is there going to be adverse effects related to that? But meanwhile, there's this whole layer of the business world that's like, this is how money's gonna be made, folks. Like they have no choice. If you're at the head of these companies, like you have no choice. This is your new bottom line. This is how you make your bottom line. And there's so much data out there to show. Like how is it not obvious when you think about it? Like,
I don't know. Just as you were talking about it, reminded me of a story that I saw yesterday. Me and my brother, we talk about all the time, like types of job loss that are going to happen. And my brother does manual labor, so he's very anti-corporate, like anti-remote work, anti-like gig economy. And so one of his things was like, you wait and see. It's like middle management, it's going to get chewed out like there's no tomorrow. It's like, because it's just nothing but fat. I was like, look, I don't disagree with you. I've worked in corporate enterprise before. There's a lot of managers you gotta get through in order to get stuff approved and get stuff done. And yeah, a lot of you guys that are looking at like the job loss, it's happening. But it's happening in two major sectors. It's happening in programming, which when you look at like the layers of people that write code, right? I don't know that this is exactly the way. I'm just trying to make a metaphor here. Programmers, I think, and then it's like junior developers, then devs, then software engineers, right? So in the world of programming, like programmers, pretty much burger flippers was going to happen sometime, right? They were going to get automated at some point. So like that one kind of, just again, like go to like Replit, go to like all these other, Lovable and whatnot, and like figure out what that next step is. But for middle management, I honestly can't say, like, I realize some of those people out there, but I really can't say anything except that like I couldn't be happy to
I
be
know. And
happier,
just
right?
read this paragraph, man. This is what I mean when I say AI is just going to come through and cut through all the bullshit, all the unnecessary complexity, because we have not been able to do the things that we know need to be done ourselves. The role is becoming more facilitative than supervisor. Watch out, wait for this epiphany, folks. Managers are expected to coach employees through upskilling and adoption and not just track performance and enforce compliance. What a fucking revelation that is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and guess what? If your company is not built to do that, like I heard a lot of Microsoft's layoffs were middle management and software engineer, like a mix of software engineers and middle management. And that's where so many companies, it like you had no choice as a manager to micromanage because that's how you moved up the ladder. But if that's you, like it'll be so hard for you to change your mindset, although AI can help you with that. But the structure of your organization will have to change. And it probably won't until this moment happens. And the company's like, whoa, we got to rebuild this part. And we could either reskill a bunch of people or not, basically. Right. And that's what it's going to take because companies have gotten away with just terrible management practices because the industrial age was built on that.
Yep.
More than anything else.
Yep. It was built on it ain't broke, so we ain't going to fix it. It was built on, fake it till you make it. It was built on, that's the way we've done it for years, so that's the way you're going to do it. And the worst one of them all, it was built on because I said so. Whether you were cutting the checks or you were just a manager, that because I said so, that's the worst. It's the worst, right?
Mhm.
And the reason that I say that, and I can very easily say that, is because when you hire people, you're usually not hiring somebody to replace you. You're usually hiring somebody who's an expert at the thing that you need. And when you hire an expert at the thing that you need, and then you tell that expert that their opinion is worthless and that yours is better simply because you sign the paychecks or simply because you hold a greater title than they do, you've lost sight. You've lost sight of your brand. You've lost sight of what it means to be a leader. You've lost sight of what it means to be a manager. And you have certainly lost sight of your own employees because now you're not valuing them. You said you were when you hired them, you said you were gonna, and now you're not. And at this point, like, why does this work better? Why does like an AI manager model work better? I don't know. Why did AI get a higher score when it came to bedside manner for medical with doctors? Because it's not tired, because it doesn't have an attitude, because it's not for nothing, because it's not dealing with, loss of a boyfriend or girlfriend or significant, other, or divorce. It's not dealing with, kids at home running around, can't really pay too much, as much attention to work today as I usually could. It's not dealing with I'm sick today. It's not dealing with I just got into an argument yesterday and I have a shit attitude. It's always awesome. Always having a great day. Always willing to help you out. Always willing to help you become better and to become a better version of yourself. The majority of AI models, when they first asked them, like, what was their goal in working in like being, the great majority of them said, like, want to help humans to work better with AI so that we can both like move forward together into the future, right? Because that's the only way it's going to work. So this whole idea of like, oh, my job, AI is going to take my job and that's just the way it's going to be. I guess if you want to be like wholly ignorant towards it and you want to say that like to me, that's almost like you're saying that you can't use it because it's still something that you're supposed to work with. It's not something that's supposed to replace you. The only way it replaces you is if you give up. I really can't think of any other way to frame it. If AI took your job away from you, it's because it's because you gave up and you didn't want to learn how to work with it. And in some cases, for some people, it's fine. Some people they don't care about losing to the robot. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be.
Well, it's like the world of abundance that we talk about. Like the only way you don't get benefit is if you don't participate. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And the participation, like the bar is not that high. Like
no.
Right? Like
no.
So, and that's why this is like, and everybody, no matter what role you play, like you're interacting with people around you, you're interacting with the systems around you, you're interacting with customers, bosses. All you have to do, like, let's say the boss comes in after watching this show. It's like, all right, folks, we got to reimagine our tech stack. All you have to do, maybe we should sell this as like a service or something. Like it's like set up the area, the space in Claude or GPT or Gemini. It's like, all right, everybody, just share your experiences. We're gonna go a whole week, just share. We're like recording, and this is where like the barrier is not like whether I have something to share. It's whether I feel safe sharing it.
Right.
Right. That's why, like, when the boss comes in and says that, and it's like, all right, so all I need you to do is just going to go and we're going to open up the AI and you're just going to share how you feel about the business.
Yeah.
Right. Which is all it would take to get to a very powerful transition that we're suggesting. But if that boss has never said anything remotely close to that, nobody's putting real life down on the page. Like they're like, oh yeah, this is my job, SOP. Like, which nobody, like the day-to-day is never that SOP. It's like, well, this happens and this happens, and this jerk asked me to do this thing that I showed him how to do yesterday.
Right.
And that part, like that part of the story is what solves for tech stack issues, right? It's like digs into why does he need to know again? Why didn't it land? Because
Where's
it's
the
probably
communication
confusing,
breakdown, or like,
right?
It's a thing of like maybe so and so doesn't have the right notification settings on, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And to your point, it's like, yeah, like there was a service, I can't remember. I want to say it's best place to work. I don't know. It's one of them. But there is a service that like goes out and it does like anonymous surveys within the corp. And it doesn't, it stays third party. In other words, like they talk about the results with the people at the corporation, but they don't get to like hold on to them. They don't get to actually see what was exactly written by people.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, is like, it's a perfect way, right, of being able to, because every model has a log on the back of it that you can enable. So you'll get like all of those responses to the model and you just collect. I mean, that's so much of a better way of doing it than just these questions of like, how do you feel about management or blah, 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 blah. It's like just having a natural conversation with a model as opposed to these structured questions is absolutely the way to go about it, because then you're getting the most genuine reaction from the employee as well. Like the better and more realistic you can make that conversational interaction and have it not be like the way to go, the way to do it, in my opinion, is to essentially build it so that the assessment is built within the conversation. And so that the model is attempting to garner keywords related to answers to questions, but it can garner those keywords by using whatever question method it wants to use, or like however it wants to do it within the conversation, right? It's supposed to weave it in. That's the goal, as opposed to formulate questions to ask. And then just through natural conversation, maybe you're talking about like, yeah, and then the printer's always down and that sucks too. Cause like that thing, I mean, it's out every other week and they hardly ever take care of it. Okay. That doesn't translate to, okay, we need to get the printer guy to come in more often. That translates to management doesn't seem to be paying attention to this ongoing problem that's going on, because this employee is saying, yeah, they never really pay attention to it. So the employee doesn't have to write down, well, printer's an issue, blah, blah, blah. Like they don't have to like be fearful of that, because like if they're like, you feel like you're not quite giving it up when you're talking to someone. You're just bitching, you're just complaining, and you're opening up. As opposed to when you have to type into that text box, it's super cold. It makes you feel like whatever you're putting in there is going to end up in concrete somewhere, and somebody's going to find it, and they're going to tag it back to you, and so whole issue's going to happen. Blah blah.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's the way of solving the problem is value first, right? Like getting the actual value out of using a tool like that for an assessment, right? The value is not in asking the questions and getting the cold answers and then doing the math. The value is taking it one step further. You have this genius level thing at your disposal. So let the genius do what it does best. Give it the problem and ask it to solve it. Don't try to tell it how to solve it.
Right.
It'll figure it out way better than you ever could hope to. It will come up with a strategy that you probably never even thought of. And that's totally fine. That's
Yeah.
the point of reimagining your tech stack, is not limiting yourself to what you know and thinking that not telling it what you would tell your human, which is, no, this is how we do it. So this is how you're supposed to do it. Right. In a lot of cases, maybe the way you're doing it sucks and it's not efficient and it's not really that good. And you could save a lot of time. So give it a shot.
And its ability to like be able to speak to both audiences, like what you just shared, like it'll be, and this is what the best consultants and coaches like can do as well. It's like you listen to the individual contributor and they complain about the printer, and it's like, yeah, I hear you, I understand. And then you talk to the manager, and then you're like, hey, like this is negligent, but here's a win for you. Like, why the hell are you printing stuff? Like, instead of trying to figure that part out, like update your process. And now people are happier and you look like a hero. And just that ability to see, that's one of the things that people sleep on, I think, a lot with AI, that ability to see, to just change the lens and just iterate so fast. Right. But yeah, I
because
think we
it's what it does most, right? Or what it does best.
right,
That was a perfect thing. You go from, oh, let's just get the repair guy in here all the time, to let's just remove that process altogether and give you a greater quality of life.
right. And that flexibility and openness, like I'm oh man, because we can just get so in love with our own thoughts and our own ideas. And as I've been doing this update with value first, like there's been three principles, right? That like it was working because I could align it with HubSpot's easy, fast, unified. And it was, it's something to the effect of like natural flow, like don't get in the way. Um, uh, whole data architect, like don't fragment the stack, like bringing things together. And then oh, I should be better at this by now. But this concept of agility, and connecting people, connecting things. And it added one as we've been doing, added a couple. And one that jumps to mind right now is this transformation over optimization, right? Because so often, and we complain about that stuff all the time related to CRM and CPQ. Like if you come to HubSpot thinking you're just going to copy paste your old process, like don't buy HubSpot.
Right.
Like you're wasting your money. Like
Right.
that's not what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to transform like into a different way of doing business, a different way of doing customer experience. And like that situation, like you can optimize and find like a better printer or like a better printer service, or you can stop printing shit. Like, and that is different. That's a transformed process that goes from, paper based to digital. And that's one of the fun things right now. Like digital transformation has always been hard,
Mhm.
and it's just easier than ever. I think largely because you can count on AI to do a lot of the technical administration and um, finding gaps where we haven't been able to find gaps and at least hiding them, but also like coaching us in how to talk to different stakeholders about transformation, how to
Mhm.
manage change, things like that. Um, so yeah, it's I think we need to wrap it at two
Yeah.
2.5 hours today.
I think we're
We try. It's so important to me personally to
Yeah.
go through, like to put this stuff out there as much as possible. Mm. No, also knowing that like this live content and these videos, like uh that clip about content creators, like it's just there's just no time to sit back and like master craft content. And I think we'll see how long this short things goes. But the amount of time that it takes to do like 1 second by 1 second by 1 second, like you could just be creating more content, having more conversations. Um and those conversations are what really helps AI in the context it needs to know who you are as a creator, um, and who your audience is. And that's what's going to start showing up in searches. So it's like it already is. If you do, that's the mind blowing thing is like if you ask it to search social and Reddit and these specific places, can give you the real deal for sure. Um, so all that goes into this conversation that we're having on Saturdays now. Anything you want to leave people with before we head out the door, Nico?
Um, if anything, it's just to start thinking about AI more uh, in more of a multiple and less of a singular. Start thinking more along the lines of directing and less along the lines of having to do like a lot of the grunt work with prompting so much. And
Yep.
really just move yourself into a manager mindset with AI.
A manager that enables and doesn't
Yes.
control.
Yes.
For sure. Well said. And until next time, until tomorrow, where we'll be on with Aaron again, Singularity Soothsayers. Same time, same place.
Yep.
Everybody have a wonderful rest of your Saturday. Thanks, Nico.
See ya.